But first, I'm going to start off with where this team is truly at, because I think last season things were kind of looked over a little bit, especially with Tom Thibodeau, where he really had the Knicks a lot closer to the championship than people realize. The only difference between the current day champions, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and last season's Knicks is that the way they responded in Game 2 after the first game was stolen at home. And the Indiana Pacers, they really revealed who they were in the finals, as they had SGA and Jalen Williams back against the wall in Game 4, especially in the second half. The Pacers really had the finals in the bag. They were at home. Oklahoma City Thunder could not get nothing going offensively, and it looked like they were about to get blown out in that third quarter, about to go down 3-1. So numerous times in that series, the Thunder had to actually dig themselves out of a hole and respond. And that's why I say the Pacers, they really revealed who they were in the finals. Even Jaylen Brown, after winning the championship in 2024, has stated the toughest series for the Boston Celtics, ironically, he named the Pacers. So Tibbs should get a lot more credit, because last year's Knicks was a lot closer to making the finals and perhaps even competing to win the championship, like on a real level, as Karl-Anthony Towns would present a matchup problem for them in the middle. But at the end of the day, with Tom Thibodeau, the offense definitely peaked. We're talking about the Knicks could not pull away from the Detroit Pistons after spending so much money on their offense. With Karl-Anthony Towns, you got Brunson, OG, Bridges, and you couldn't pull away from the Pistons. They were not running a sophisticated offense. Cade had no skilled center that can handle the ball as a roller. Jalen Duren was making a lot of mistakes. He's not a three-point shooter. But yet, throughout that whole series, the final score always came down to a 1 or 2 point difference. And that series alone could point to a lot of the reasons why Tibbs got fired. The Knicks' lack of scoring in the third quarter in Game 2, the 14 points that they got in Game 4, and even in the closeout game, Brunson had to come rescue them in the fourth quarter, as the Pistons were mounting a comeback and the Knicks offense kind of went ghost. But Tibbs getting fired right away after the season ended, I didn't really agree with. Again, for the amount of firepower the Knicks had on their team, their Game 2 response to the Pacers just offensively was not there. There was no spark. But at the end of the day, I'm going to still give Tibbs credit, because he had the team in position to at least take it to a Game 7. The Pacers bench alone per game were just dropping so many points. In Game 5 alone, their bench had 57 points, and that wasn't a loss. But every single game, their bench was dropping over 30 points a game. And they were doing the same thing in the finals. So I'm going to still give Tibbs his credit. But at the end of the day, in this new modern NBA, teams are playing a lot deeper than they used to. Out of the 4 remaining teams last season, the Knicks, the Pacers, the Thunder, the Minnesota Timberwolves, 3 out of those 4 teams had this in common. The Knicks were the only team where the coach kind of seemed reluctant to play guys off the bench. It's not until midway through the Pacers series we seen Shaman and others come through and actually impact the game. Unfortunately, the Tom Thibodeau experience has definitely peaked, but Tibbs had the team in position. And unfortunately, a critical Game 1 slip-up and also them not responding in Game 2 against the Pacers eventually led things to go downhill, as the Knicks just breathing room to make mistakes just kept getting even smaller and smaller and smaller. And that Eastern Conference Finals is very pivotal for the Knicks, because it's going to get reflected even to this season. The fact that they're going to have more bench players coming in and having a better role on the team, getting up more three-point shots. Also, they added more size. Yabusele, you got Big Mo. Hopefully they play him more minutes. That's going to address a lot of the issues from that Pacers series, where we see Pascal Siakam in transition throughout all those games. Kill it, man. He just used his size and dominated Deuce, Josh Hart, Brunson, Mikal Bridges, and even at times OG. So a lot of the holes that we had in that series is really the difference of the squad getting to an NBA championship. Even the Josh Hart conundrum was exposed, as the Pacers completely had enough speed on the floor with Mathurin coming off the bench, Obi, that they shut down any transition points. So Josh Hart couldn't get those baskets where he's grabbing the rebound and just fully taking the ball up and taking it to the rack. The Pacers completely shut that down. And speaking of Josh Hart, this season is going to be very pivotal for him, because players of his archetype, guys like Drew Holiday, Marcus Smart, Once they start hitting their early 30s, and the smart teams really pay attention to this, once they see these guys start showing a slight decrease in their defense, teams normally ship them out. I know Josh Hart's under a favorable contract, but this is a brand new coach coming in, and so far we've seen Mike Brown kind of use that starting position that Josh Hart had from last season as sort of a flex. Maybe in one game he wants to go small, or another game he might play two bigs, but he's going according to the matchups, and this is something I like that Mike Brown is doing. He's showing that he can make adjustments on the fly. And we'll see how Josh Hart responds by not having those guaranteed starting minutes night by night. He does have a very favorable contract, but hopefully he stays away from injuries. And because he's not really a shooter, normally players of his archetype have to keep up that defensive stronghold, or just judging from the trends of contending teams, they normally ship those guys away. But this will be an interesting season for a number of reasons, because sometimes a team like this is not really designed to last long. Not only do they have to take advantage of Jalen Brunson taking a pay cut as far as his contract, but also a number of guys that are on the books are going to be up for brand new contracts. We're talking about Mitchell Robinson, Deuce McBride. Just this variation of the Knicks was perhaps never meant to last long. And that's why this season is really a championship or bust. Not only they need certain late first round picks or just second round picks like Tyler Kolek, Paco Dadier, Deuce McBride, Big Mo. They need these guys to evolve and get more acclimated into their rotation due to the fact that their contracts are low. They desperately need some value. The same way when Josh Hart first came to the Knicks, for what they were paying him, he was under a value contract based off of his production, the way he was killing it with the rebounding, the defense, the passing. Same thing for Isaiah Hartenstein. That was another value contract. And that right there is the biggest blow to the Knicks, losing him, not having those bird rights. But those type of value contracts is what really helps the Knicks kind of stay below the second apron in this whole new NBA system, where you get penalized severely if you keep going over that apron year after year. You get locked up in what kind of trades you can make. You pretty much get stuck to where the Phoenix Suns were when they had Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, and Kevin Durant, where they're just fishing every offseason in the minimum player market. So having Mike Brown's a good thing, because you know young guys are going to get some burn, and that's why Tibbs slowly had to get phased out of this whole equation. This is where the league is at today. You got to find some young gems at the end of the first round and second round. So adjustments have to be made to keep up with the times, and this is where I give Leon Rose a lot of credit. He's bounced back real well from some of the mistakes of his tenure. But the final thing I want to discuss right here, before we get into our topics, is the Karl-Anthony Towns situation. That's something that Leon Rose is going to have to continuously re-examine. Yes, it makes sense with him in a pick and roll with Brunson, but due to the fact that Brunson is already a liability on the defensive end, Karl-Anthony Towns does add a brand new complication to that situation. It leaves the Knicks sometimes playing a game of whack-a-mole. It's hard enough already to hide Brunson on that end of the floor, but Karl Towns sometimes he's aloof on defense. And if he's not clicking with the offense at a high enough level to make up for that, his whole stint in New York could be short-lived. And this is why I say this version of the Knicks was never really meant to be long-term. The league is moving very fast. The way the cap and the money is structured, the Celtics went from competing to a championship to almost a rebuild this current season. They got rid of KP, Drew Holiday, certain guys they were paying a decent salary to, because they don't want to keep hitting that luxury tax year after year as the penalties keep getting harsher and harsher. It's crazy to think all this is still a struggle with Brunson taking a pay cut. And that's the most important thing for Leon Rose. He has to get this team into a great position to compete in the finals while Brunson is on this contract, because it's definitely going to get a lot harder. And right now, the Knicks kind of have it on easy mode thanks to him, but it's still a struggle. I tell you what, Adam Silver is always talking about parity in the league, and they do want an NFL-style system while entering into streaming. They don't want the same teams over and over dominating and the same teams tanking year in, year out. So that's why the league now is structured very different. Again, I give Leon Rose a lot of credit, because this is almost two different NBAs from when he first came to New York, where the Knicks could go over the luxury tax and they would try to recruit guys, and multiple teams had big three players, like even the Brooklyn Nets with James Harden, Kyrie, and KD. Those days are over. Now it's more of a duo league alongside a lot of young assets, guys that are maybe 4-year college players coming out of the second round, late first round, gems that you find there, and you mix that in with guys with two-way contracts that are still talented enough to be in the league, but just need an opportunity. The Oklahoma City Thunder are a perfect example of this. They got enough first-round picks every single season that once some of their role players start coming up for contracts, they could go ahead and draft brand new guys. So this is a very interesting transition the league is going in, and ironically, it's happening in a time where the Knicks are actually on the come up. So I just want to put this nuance that Leon Rose is kind of going through front and center and make more sense of why this version of the Knicks was never really meant to be long term.